So I want to take a game that I think is kind of similar to 500 Rummy and teach you how to play it the way I would teach my mom. So the game is called Iliad. It's a really fun game, doesn't take long, it's a simple card game. I bet you could teach it to anybody who's played 500 Rummy before. So there are a lot of similarities. For one thing, they're both played in a series of hands. Keep track of the score from hand to hand, and then you just play another hand that's just like the first hand but started over. The other big similarity that you can probably already perceive from looking here is that each player has their own personal playing area that they play cards into. So during the game, on your turn, you play cards from your hand into that playing area in front of you, and it's those cards that make up your score for this hand. So you're trying to get your area to have a higher score than the other players' areas. Now, there's as many similarities as there are, there's a lot of differences too. For one thing, the hand doesn't run out. In Rummy, the hand ends when you run out of cards. When somebody runs out of cards, and that person a lot of times wins the hand. In Iliad, it does not end when you run out of cards. It ends when everyone has passed. So we take turns playing cards into our playing area at, building our points. But let's say I get down to 3 cards and I decide to pass. Well, I just kind of sit out while the other 2 players, or 3 or 4 players, keep going until each of them pass. Once everyone has passed, then the hand ends. And another big difference between this and Rummy 500 is that the cards left in your hand don't count against you. They don't count for your score on the table or against it. And in fact, you don't even discard them. So at the end of the hand, all our personal areas will be discarded so we can start the next hand fresh and new. But not the cards in your hand. The cards in your hand you keep and you get to use them next hand. And which leads me to the other big change, and that is that in Rummy 500, each turn you're drawing cards and you're playing cards. Drawing cards and playing cards. In Iliad, all you do is draw 3 new cards at the beginning of the hand. After that, you don't draw any. Each turn you just play cards. So there's a big difference. So a lot of the strategy in Iliad is you get your 3 new cards for your new hand. You're playing, and you're deciding, when do I want to cut my losses? I'm going to lose all these cards on the table, but it's not worth fighting this anymore. The cards I have left I want to keep because I still get to use them in the next hand. I don't have to discard them. The other big difference between these 2 games is that in Rummy 500 you're collecting 3 of a kind, or you're collecting a run, like a 3 of clubs, 4 of clubs, 5 of clubs, and you play those cards together all at the same time. In Iliad, that is not the case. In Iliad, you just play 1 card each turn, and it can be pretty much any card you want. So let's take a look at the army deck and see the different kinds of cards that you'll have to be able to put out in your playing area to score you points at the end of a hand. So any kind of card you have, if the card scores points, you'll see that number here in the corner. This card scores 1. It's an archer. All archers score 1 point. This is a chariot. A chariot scores 3 points, as you can see there in the corner. Now hoplites. Hoplites are your basic foot soldiers, so there's tons of them in the deck. And they actually score between 1 and 4 points. This one you can see scores 4 points. But there's a special ability of the hoplites I'll show you. If you have another hoplite in your hand, say this 2, you can play a lower hoplite on top of a higher hoplite in a stack. So if I play a 4 first, then in another turn I can play a 2. And then if I also had a 1 in my hand, I could play that on top of the 2. And the reason you would do that is because you can see these total 4, 2, 1, 7 points. But if hoplites are on top of each other, then you add those points together and you multiply them by the number of cards in the stack. So 7 times 3 cards is 21 points. So hoplites can be worth a lot if you use them correctly. The elephant says times 2 right there. It actually can hold up to 2 cards, and the cards on it score double. I can hold a hoplite or an archer. That's why those symbols are up in the top middle there. If I've got, say, a couple hoplites in my hand, then on 2 turns I can play that hoplite, this hoplite. So this one's worth 2 points, this one's now worth 4 points. The other card that's kind of similar to that is the Trojan Horse. So the Trojan Horse, you can see, has a question mark. The Trojan Horse holds cards like the elephant, but it can hold an unlimited amount of cards. But once again, it's just hoplites and archers that it can hold. Over 3 turns, I could place cards in the Trojan Horse, but I put them face down so my opponents don't know what they are. Then, at the end of the hand, I can take those out and I can add them to the top of an elephant or to the bottom of a hoplite stack. Those are the basic point scoring cards. The only other card that has a number on it that scores points are your hero cards, and they're special. Your hero cards, at the beginning of each hand, you put one out for each player in the game. So we're kind of doing a 3-player game example. When you pass, you take the highest one left and you add it to your playing area. Then the other people keep playing. When one of them pass, they would take it to their playing area. And the last person, when they decide they're done, they get that one. So that's just a little extra boost to your points. It gives you an incentive to pass earlier. And in fact, if there's a tie on who wins the hand, then it goes to the person who has the highest numbered hero. So if we look at the scores, this guy's got the elephant, so these are double. That's worth 6 points, 7, 8, 9. This guy has got 4 points, but that's times 2, because 2 cards in a stack is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Meanwhile, this guy has Trojan Horse, so it's the end of a hand. We can reveal that, and he can add it to this hoplite, so he ends up with 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So this player actually wins. But if you're playing Rummy 500, you would write down those scores, 14, 13, and 9. Those would contribute towards your overall score. In Iliad, it works a little differently. In Iliad, at the beginning of each hand, you flip over some victory point cards and an oracle card. Now, an oracle card will tell you how many negative points the person in last gets. In a 3-player game, you flip over just one victory card point. That one's worth 3 points. And the winner of the hand gets that card. So in this game, you don't actually have to write down and keep track of how many points you have. Instead, the loser would get this card. This person would add it to their other victory cards to show, to add 3 to their total. If you have more players, then for each additional player, you have another victory card to add to the victory cards available. So if you had 4 players, the person who comes in second place would actually get a victory point card also. Then you put your heroes back to be gotten for the next hand for when people pass, and you discard all these army cards that were on the table. You can just create a discard stack for them. And each player draws 3 cards to add to the cards they had left over from before. So after that hand, you draw those 3 cards and you turn over the next oracle card. That one's -1, so the loser will get -1. And the next victory card or cards, this is a C card that's worth 2 points. Now you must be saying to yourself, it can't be that simple, right? What I've explained so far would almost be like a Rummy 500 Junior. So there is one other major element of the game I had to explain, and that's called attacking. All attacking means is that I can take one of my cards, if I'm this player, and on my turn, instead of playing a card to my hand, I can take a card in my playing area and attack one of your cards, and they both get discarded. So on your turn, your other choice besides playing a card into your playing area is attacking someone else's card with a card you've already played. Now this is real easy. Each card says what it can attack down the side. So an archer can attack another archer or a hoplite. If an archer attacks a hoplite, it only attacks the one at the end of the stack. So it would attack this 3. On the other hand, if an archer is on top of an elephant, then it attacks the other way. Since it's up high, it can attack the best one. So it would attack this hoplite and they would get discarded. Let's say I had an archer at the top of an elephant over here. Well, in that case, this archer cannot attack that archer directly. The elephant hides it, or so would a Trojan horse. So how do you defeat those? There's some cards that are just for attacking. They don't score any points at all. They're just for attacking. So on my turn, I could play one of them, like this one, the Ballista. if you look at the ballista, it attacks the horses, the chariots, and elephants. You also have a catapult. Now the catapult destroys all kinds of stuff, and you can just look down. The harrow is a little special. Instead of attacking, you can see right there, it has a little red line through a chariot symbol. What the harrow does, it protects you from chariots. If you play this down, nobody can attack you with a chariot. Chariots attack hoplites and archers, but the special rule of the chariot is that instead of having to play the card first and then use it to attack, a chariot is real fast. So the chariot you can attack with directly from your hand. You never actually play it into your hand. So in my hand I could immediately go and attack this guy's archer, and they would both become discarded. So you got to be aware, once you pass and take your hero card, other people could keep attacking your stuff. And so you don't know for sure what your total score is going to be when you pass. There are two other small rules I want to explain to you real quick. The first one is these pots. There's 3 of them, but these are really simple. These are just basically special victory point cards. For one thing, whoever won the most recent battle gets to have Agamemnon in front of them, and so that's worth an extra. Whoever has the most points in ship cards gets to have Poseidon in front of them, and it's the same for Athena except with the city cards. The only other rule is with these oracle cards. Like I said, the oracle card shows how many negative points the loser of a hand gets. So the first hand, the loser gets -1 points. The next one, in this case, it's -2 points. But once in a while, you'll run into, there's 2 of these cards called Gorgon. They don't have a number on them. The Gorgon, those 2 rounds in the game are lightning rounds. And so when you get this card, the whole game changes a little bit. Basically, there's no hero cards to get when you pass. When you pass, you are out, and you're not allowed to play Trojan horses. And what you do is you play a card on your turn or attack, and the hand is over when someone begins their turn with the lead. So what that means is I played some stuff, most likely I took the lead, everybody else plays or passes, and when it comes back around to me, nobody's taken the lead from me. The hand ends immediately, and I just get the 1 victory card that gets turned over for that. So those are the rules of Iliad. It's really not that much more complicated than saying play 500 Rummy. And so if you can kind of explain it to people in a way that shows that it isn't much more complicated, then they might enjoy it. I think a lot of us have just put in so many hours playing 500 Rummy from when we were kids or something. There's a lot of hand management and kind of bluffing of what other people are going to do, and trying to value in your head, if this hand is worth it to go for it all, or if I should cut my losses and go to the next hand. I think it's a really fun game.